The ancient and traditional Indian arts. Krishna learnt the 64 arts in 64 days. In the Kama Sutra, Puran or Puranam, depending on what part of India you come from, and the hymns epitomize her as a manifestation of the 64 arts. Now, how do we know that they were 64 in number? Kala, Chatushashti Kala. How about we go back to something ancient? Happy New Year! Instead of starting something new, how about we go back to something ancient? The ancient and traditional Indian arts. Kala, Chatushashti Kala. Chatushashti meaning 64, Kala meaning art. In ancient India, art was practiced like a ritual. Art was not left to occasional sparks of creativity. It was deliberately incorporated into the everyday lifestyle through creative rituals. The Indic knowledge systems considered art to be integral for the holistic development of an individual, and the 64 kalas, 64 arts, was part of the educational curriculum of every individual. Yes, they had to learn all of the 64 arts. Of course, all of this was way before art was institutionalized. Now, how do we know that they were 64 in number? Because we find references of Chatushashti Kala in several texts, including the Ramayana, the Bhagavata Purana. In fact, in the Bhagavata Purana, the story goes that Krishna learnt the 64 arts in 64 days. It's also mentioned in the Kama Sutra, in the Brahmanda Purana under the Lalita Sahasranamam. The Lalita Sahasranamam is the 1,000 names of the goddess, and the hymns epitomize her as a manifestation of the 64 arts. Mention of the kalas is also found in some Buddhist and Jain texts. However, the oldest mention of the 64 kala can be found in the Rig Veda, which can be dated back to 1500 to 1000 BCE. So how did these 64 arts come to be? What is their origin story? This can be traced to the Kalika Puranam. What is a Purana? I mentioned the Bhagavata Purana, I mentioned the Brahmanda Purana, now I am mentioning the Kalika Purana. A Purana, a Puran or Puranam, depending on what part of India you come from, is a compilation of stories, mythological stories, and the essential function of these stories is to pass on knowledge. Now, although the Puranams were eventually compiled, originally they were oral traditions and they were passed orally from generation to generation. So, the story of the origin of the 64 ancient arts can be found in the Kalika Purana, and Kalika or Kali. Kali is another name for the goddess or the divine feminine, and this Purana has the story of how the 64 ancient arts originated. Want to hear that story? Brahma, the creator of the Trinity, after creating the world, the gods, the demigods, the progeny of the human race, the Prajapatis, from his mind emerged the 10 sages. Marichi, Atri, Pulaha, Angirasa, Kritu, Pulastya, Vasishta, Narada, Prachetasa and Bhrigu. And there emerged 11th one, a beautiful damsel. She was so beautiful that there was none other like her in heaven. Her eyes were blue and they resembled the blossoming blue lotus. She had the most beautiful of features. Her skin glowed and she was the perfect of them all. She also was intelligent and she had a deep voice. She had a charming smile and all of them were left admiring at this beauty that had emerged from Brahma's mind. They called her Sandhya, twilight. And as Brahma was pondering, what is the purpose of this beauty, this charming lady, emerged from his mind a handsome young man who had a golden glow to his skin. He had a well sculpted and strong body. His chest was wide like the plank of a door. He too had a charming smile. His eyes were like fully bloomed lotuses. They were blue too. And he also had fragrance to his body. He smelled of the bakula flower. He carried with him a flag that had an emblem of the Makara, a mythical sea creature like a crocodile. And he carried a bow of flowers and 5 arrows, all of what were flower garlands. He moved very swiftly and he jumped and presented himself in front of Brahma and asked Brahma, "Oh, creator of mine, tell me, how can I help you in this process, in this journey of creation?" Brahma for a moment was taken aback and surprised by what had just emerged from his mind. First this damsel, this beauty, so charming of them all, and now this handsome man who had this golden glow and he smelled good, and then he found himself smiling because he knew exactly what he wanted this man to do. All of the people over there, the Prajapatis, the sages, were all as excited as well to see this handsome man who was moving around swiftly, who was full of energy and was carrying this bow and arrow. And Brahma told him, "Your job is to enchant all the males and the females of all the species. Leave nobody. Even me, Brahma, all the Prajapatis, all the sages, all the gods won't be spared. You have the power to enchant anybody, and that is your job. You should enchant all beings across all species." And understanding what his role was and the fact that he excited their minds, people there named him Manmata. Manmata, the one who excites the mind. Now Manmata was very excited and he was also mischievous. He wanted to make sure that what Brahma told him, what Brahma had bestowed upon him, indeed was true. And to test his powers, he decided to pull a prank across all those who were present there. He took his arrow, the garland of flowers, and with his bow of flowers, he flung the arrows at everybody who was present there. And as soon as those arrows pierced their heart, yes, you must have guessed by now, we are talking about Cupid, Manmata, Kama, Madana or Cupid, as Manmada's arrows pierced their hearts, they were all filled with different kinds of feelings of enchantment. They were all enchanted. They were enchanted by each other. Brahma towards Sandhya, all the other men there towards Sandhya. And Sandhya was just one woman present over there, and there were so many of these men around her. And Manmada's arrow was doing all kinds of things to all of them. And in that moment, with all that was going on within her, from Sandhya emerged bhavas or emotions, and there were 49 of them. Along with bhavas came havas and the vibhokas. The havas are the coquettish, silly gestures we often see people in love exhibiting. And the vibhokas are expressions of indifference or pride. You know, when you know that someone is besotted by you and you like it, but you're not going to let them know that. And so you put up this show of being indifferent and, nah, I don't care what you think. I don't care anything for your pursuits. That is vibhokas. All of this emerged from Sandhya, and along with that emerged the 64 ancient arts. Chatushashti Kala, Chatushashti Kama Kala. Now that you know how the 64 ancient arts came to be, I'm sure you are eager to know what these 64 arts are. But you know what? It's going to be boring for me and boring for you if I simply rat out those names. Plus, all of these arts come with fascinating and fun stories. So, over a series of episodes titled Ancient Indian Arts, we will be engaging in and exploring more about the 64 ancient arts or the Chatushashti Kala.